What is up, you sexy YouTube mother lovers? Let's talk about the 50. Alright, please hold your applause. I appreciate your enthusiasm. So the last time you guys saw an AK-50 video was about a month ago, where we showed off the AK-50 successfully test firing and cycling multiple rounds from a magazine. Hell yeah. Can I get a woot woot? If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and click on wherever that just popped up, or you can check out the link in the description and in the pinned comment. Well worth the watch. We put a lot of time into it. But in that video, we showed a couple of the hang-ups that we had to dial in along the way, but we skipped over a lot of other problems that we had to fix while we were trying to get this gun to run. We skipped over them just because it didn't really fit the flow of the video, and honestly, we didn't want to bore you with the details before we got to the big epic test firing, because we were all super excited about it. But there were a lot of problems, which is a good thing. Kind of. Let me explain that. Having the problem isn't necessarily the good thing, but finding out that the problem is there and then realizing how we fix that problem is why we do prototyping. This is the whole point of why we did this V2. I probably need that for a prop. One sec. Oh boy, I love the fact that this fits on my gun wall. This is still loaded. Get that solo round out. We don't have a bolt, firing pin, or even cam groove in this gun right now, so it doesn't really matter, not really unsafe, but to make everybody feel better. Alright, so that's a bit better. So in this video, I want to clear up a couple of the misconceptions that I saw come up a lot. I want to talk about how the V2 did and what we've got to do to fix it. So the biggest upset of this entire thing was that the stamped mild steel off-the-shelf steel tubing that we just designed these parts around for the time being, just for, cheap prototyping, held up fantastic. Really no warpage, there's nothing we really had to do to modify this. The rivets held up fantastic. They're a little ugly because we don't exactly have the tooling to be able to crush these the pretty way, but they were sound and they held up. Barrel's fine. We were worried about the barrel profile being a little thin. We were worried about the chamber being a little thin. Everything was fine. Didn't explode yet. And ultimately this thing got to 68 rounds, one shy of funny number. Damn. But not to worry, we're not done with this yet. There's a few things that we want to change on it. But first, let's talk about what didn't really work so well. For one, the cam groove. This was a predictable failure spot, which is why we made the cam groove removable from the bolt carrier. As you see, there's a little shape missing here. Let me just pull this out. This is the slot for the cam groove. This is where this slides in, right, like that. I would have to beat it in with a hammer, by the way, which I'm not going to do. But on a standard AK, that's all one piece. Now, we were going to do the same on the AK-50, and eventually we probably will, but knowing that we would probably fuck the cam groove up in one way or the other and would have to replace it, we decided to make that a separate piece. Hindsight, great move, because we definitely fucked that up. Now, in the very beginning, we were using a roller as our cam lug, which is this bit up top. We'll talk about why that looks hacked to shit later. Basically, what this does is this is the lug on the bolt that interfaces with the cam groove that gets it to rotate and lock up into battery so your gun doesn't explode. And when the bolt carrier comes back through the gas from the piston, it is also what unlocks the bolt and allows it to cycle. Firearm Mechanics 101. Anything high pressure, meaning like rifle calibers pretty much, is going to require some sort of lockup. The lockup system we're using on the AK-50 is the same lockup system that they use on the regular AK. Pretty much every AK variant, actually I'm pretty sure all of them. Long stroke, which means the long piston goes all the way to the gas block. Long stroke, gas operated, rotating bolt lockup. Which is one of the things that makes the AK-50 unique from other semi-auto 50 caliber rifles. Like the Barrett is short recoil operated, which is why the barrel reciprocates, and the Serbu BFG50A is direct impingement, but is AK, so we had to go with long stroke. Now, if you recall, we started with this piece, the cam lug, being a roller. Seemed like a good idea. Spread out the force a little bit more evenly, make it a little bit more, just fluid and roll nicely, make the action smoother. Shattered in 3 rounds. But as to why, it wasn't really the roller's fault. See, there was a ledge inside the cam groove on the initial part of the rotation that we didn't really account for, didn't really see would be a problem, because we hand cycled it and it was doing just fine, but as soon as you add heat and pressure, things start to behave a little bit differently, and it was basically hitting a brick wall, which is why, as you see here, you see the bolt carrier move back just enough to where it runs out of free play, which is the amount of space that the bolt carrier can move rearward before it engages the cam and turns the bolt. It jams up there because that's where it was hitting a brick wall, and that's where it was tearing the shit out of our roller. We figured that out pretty early on, I think like round 4 or 5. We noticed that was the problem. They thought it was overgassed, I thought it was undergassed. I ended up being right, but I figured that it was a better idea to try it since we were encountering like severe wear. Try it with less gas first because there's way less to lose, versus if you tried it with more gas first, you'd see that wear speed up significantly. I'm glad we did it that way and tried their way first, because if we tried giving it more gas before we realized what the problem was here, we would have broken the shit out of a lot of shit. So the fix for that is we dremelled away the wall that it was encountering there, rounded it out, and that helped significantly in aiding this being able to cycle. After that, it was just a matter of giving it more gas and kind of dialing in how much we threaded the piston in or away from the gas port itself, which just changes the gas chamber volume here in the gas block, and just how much we drilled the gas port, which means we were pressing this block off, drilling it just slightly bigger, and then pressing it back on. Always want to start undergassed. The reason for that is if you start overgassed, you're just fucked. If you're undergassed, you can always drill it bigger. And I believe that's when we started getting it to cycle. Super fucking cool. I thought we could do it. Wasn't a sure thing, so that was already a really good step here. But one of the things we figured out when we started doing multiple round tests from a magazine is that the inertia of this gun firing is so great that the way we had our magazine release designed, the rearward momentum would actually just allow this to disengage and the magazine would fall, which wasn't great because it meant that the next round you fired, the bolt would come back and smack the nose of the cartridge into the casing, just sink this into the case, which that can be a real problem. I'm kind of glad it wasn't more of a problem. So we're gonna have to figure out a fix for that. That's relatively easy, but that's why if you look in the video, there's we're using all sorts of shit to hold this magazine upright. Kind of an awkward angle to hold a magazine that's slanted like this. But we were doing shit like using, fishing line. We ended up using a tourniquet that worked extremely well. Although it would have been really awkward if we needed that tourniquet. Yeah, I'm glad we didn't need that tourniquet. Yeah, okay, so now that we got to that part, we were still realizing that the roller was seeing too much wear and was going to break apart, so we just ended up ditching that entirely. We also knew that that was probably going to be an issue as far as the lug on the bolt for the camming lug. So we made that removable as well. As you see, it's just a through hole. So we took the roller out, we punched it out, and we were able to put in a round lug. We just turned up a round lug that would fit in that hole on the lathe, heat treated it really quick with a blowtorch and some oil, and shoved that bitch in. Still didn't run super great, and we realized we were getting uneven contact on the cam groove, which was causing a lot of resistance. It was also wearing prematurely because it was a round lug, but it still didn't spin like the roller did, so it was only really contacting on one part of that round lug. So hence the cutaway there, where we cut it to have more surface contact in this groove, the side of this groove, which actually helped significantly, even though it really hurt to have to take these nice expensive 4-axis CNC machine parts and completely Dremel fuck them. Speaking of expensive parts that we have fucked up, now is the perfect time to thank our sponsor, which fittingly enough is SDI.
Today's sponsor is Sonoran Desert Institute. I get a lot of guys who ask me, Brandon, how do I get started in the firearms industry? Well, SDI might be a good place to start. It's great for anyone who has an interest in things in firearm technology, whether it's gunsmithing, firearm repair, or shooting sports management. Basically anything gun industry related. If that sounds like you might want to check them out. They have tons of online classes that make it super easy for you, so if you want to learn more, head on over to sdi.edu, go check them out. Thanks again to SDI. Back to the video.
Then we started running into another issue where the gun was getting sluggish after a couple of rounds, and we couldn't figure out why. And when we let it cool down and tried it again, it wasn't that big of a problem until a couple more rounds later. We theorized that was thermal expansion because we didn't have the clearance we thought we did between the face of the bolt here and the rear locking lugs as indexed to the face of the barrel itself, meaning that we were thinking that the bolt and the chamber area was heating up, and since we had very, very little clearance there, it was causing more friction because it was just expanding just enough to get tighter, which was causing it more stress in the camming and causing it to be lethargic. So the fix for that is we turned down the face of this just slightly, just a few thousandths, just to see if that wouldn't be an issue. It did help a little bit. I'm still not confident that that was 100% what happened, but it was a really good theory and it seems to have worked. For the record, turning down this face is not really all that important as long as you have proper headspace and proper chamber support. It's these lugs back here on the back that actually lock and engage. So this up here doesn't do a whole lot. This is just chamber face support, supporting the extractor right here, because this, just in order to have an extractor like this, you have to pretty much cut away the front part of that lug. Like I said, it's pretty much fine. The rear part is the part that does all the heavy lifting as far as not making the gun explode. So we realized more of the problem was, again, in the cam groove, which is what led to the ultimate Dremel fucking of a lot of these surfaces. It's really hard to show on camera. They're very, very minor. I almost have to get my fucking reading glasses out to be able to see them. But it's uneven contact between cam lug and the cam groove, and ultimately the fact that we don't have a big enough cam lug or groove. I thought we did going in, but it was very clear that we needed more surface contact. We needed more meat on both surfaces, and honestly, we made a couple of fuck ups on that cam groove geometry to start with. It was some stupid shit. I guess we were in a hurry. We didn't notice. There's a few things on here that really not happy with. It's a very, very aggressive rotation, which is obviously going to put more wear on the cam groove and the cam lug itself. It's trying to open faster under heat and pressure. Not usually a really good thing if you're trying to make your parts last longer. And as we know, every guy wants to last longer. That leads us to new parts. Here we have our new cam groove. As you can see, that cam track is way less aggressive and way bigger. We're hoping this is going to be the winner. It's got this black color already because it just came back from heat treat. We're gonna go ahead and install this in the bolt carrier, hopefully later on today. We also have our new cam lug, which as you can tell is a good bit beefier than this. I'll hold these side by side. Hopefully that is able to fix a lot of our problems that we're having with this particular part of the gun. Of course, in order to do that, we're gonna have to, pop this little cam lug out, mill the bolt flat in that one section, and we're gonna have to weld this on to the proper spot in the bolt. Gonna probably be doing that later on today as well. And from there, it's just dialing it in and then really just seeing what happens. That's really the only change we're making on this gun, this particular testbed gun, for now. Now, one thing I did want to talk about that I did see some comments of, talking about our little setup here to fire it from that brand tripod. That is not how this gun is going to be fired. This is a really crude junkyard prototype of an AK-50. Part of loving guns is respecting guns, and respecting that this thing, under the right circumstances and fucking up enough of the right tolerances, will fucking kill you. So until we dial those things in, we're gonna keep testing it on this little, tripod setup. I think that's a good idea. And a reminder again, this is a tester prototype. None of the decisions that we're making right now are for aesthetics at all. This is totally just bare bones function testing. Even like the square steel tube, people are in the comments talking about how like, well, you really think that could hold up? You think this could be a commercial product with a stamped square? No, I can't say that word on YouTube. Fuck! Not smart person. Dum-dum, there you go. I'm gonna call you a fucking dum-dum. We're in talks with people who are already way better at stamping than I am about an actual prototype for something that we actually want this gun to look like as a finished product. But like I said, this is entirely just to test this out and not break the bank. I think the steel tube cost me like $60, whereas custom stamping dies would have cost me like 10 grand, potentially more, actually, now that I think about it. So since I don't have a Lockheed Martin budget, I get to do stuff like this, which I think actually worked perfectly fine. I mean, the goddamn thing cycled. The point is, we are learning things from this gun. We're learning about the camming system, what kind of pressures that we're working under there, how aggressive of a cam we can get away with. We're learning about gas volume. We're learning all sorts of shit. We learn that the stamped receiver holds up. We learn that the rivets are holding up. We learn that a threaded barrel with a barrel pin through it actually works on the 50 BMG of this spec. Long stroke is working fine. Our buffer system is working fine, although I do really want to beef up that spring. I was compressing a little bit too early. So that's another thing we figured out. Our single recoil spring assembly work. A lot of people were commenting saying that that was just going to blow out the back of the gun. Oh, you can't have one recoil spring. Don't know what to say. But the most important thing is that we're taking notes, we're writing everything down, we're figuring out what makes this gun tick so that the next prototype that we do, that I know I'm terrible at timelines, I'm basically like fucking Elon Musk at this point, trying to have a new prototype by the end of the year that actually takes more aesthetics into account and is going to look a little bit more like a finished gun would. Which means it's time to tackle optic mounting and handguards, and I got a lot of fucking work to do. But anyhow, guys, I think that's enough talk for today. It's time to get to work. That's why I showed up here a little bit early. The boys are about to be here, and we're going to take this thing off and go do some cosmetic surgery to it. Not cosmetic surgery, it's actually more like open heart surgery, but you get the point. Anyhow, guys, I appreciate you guys staying to the end of the video. I appreciate your dedication with me to this project. And as always, I'll see you sexy YouTube mother lovers in the next video. Thanks. So the last time you guys saw an AK-50 video was about a month ago, where we showed off the AK-50 successfully cycling multiple rounds out of a magazine. Fuck yeah. Can't say fuck. God damn it. That's a blooper. I'm trying to think of a response. Like, I was gonna say, yeah, sit the fuck down. No, I can't say fuck. God damn it.